Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann, and I'm getting the embers right out of the fire where they are still hot. My home state, Minnesota, has gone not just national in the news, international as of this morning, and for all the wrong reasons, because we are now the focus of the latest instance of white cop violence against a black human being. I can't say perp, I can't say assailant, I don't know anything about 32-year-old Philando Castile, other than that he was 32 years old, and his name was Philando Castile. Oh, and that he's dead. I guess you could throw that in there. He's fucking dead. The cop shot him. St. Anthony police officer shot him, and he's fucking dead. I just want to put this out there. My home state has not really been mentioned much on CNN, to my recollection, in the last few years. So this story made it. There was a traffic stop. A black man was driving. A white cop stopped him. And long story short, the black guy got shot and he died. Last time Minnesota was in the international news on CNN was a couple months back when somebody called a prank into the Coon Rapids Burger King, telling the people there that there was a gas leak and they needed to ventilate the building so there wasn't an explosion due to the heat from the kitchen and the gas vapor in the air. And because those people that work there are geniuses, and the guy on the phone identified himself as a fire alarm company security agent of some sort, they busted out every goddamn window in the place that they could on the ground floor.
Are you fucking kidding me?
So you saw like 20 windows getting smashed in the video. Yeah, that's Minnesota for you. That's the last time the whole world cared about Minnesota, when they found out that everybody that works at the Coon Rapids Burger King are a bunch of fucking dummies. Sorry if somebody that works there is hearing this, but that did not make you guys seem very intelligent. Not the point. Moving on. There was a stop in Roseville by a St. Anthony police officer, and the details are that the cop pulled the car over because there was a tail light out. So during the course of the stop, the gentleman who was driving, who was being stopped, Philando Castile, I'm just going to call him Mr. Castile because I'm sick of fucking saying his name. It makes me think of Lando Calrissian, which this is not a Star Wars episode, or a joke. So Mr. Castile is asked for his license and proof of insurance, as is standard policy in all traffic stops in the state of Minnesota. I know that because I was a licensed peace officer in Minnesota. I went to college and got my post-board certification in law enforcement bachelor's degree. So, yeah, I kind of was taught on that shit. I know how that goes. Plus, I've been pulled over a number of times, and by number I mean like 5, maybe, in the almost 20 years I've been driving. No tickets. During the course of the stop and the initial contact, Mr. Castile tells the officer, by the way, I have a firearm on me, and I have a conceal and carry permit to have it. What the hell happens after that is kind of anybody's guess, because there's conflicting reports that the cop just asked him for the license and proof of insurance, and Mr. Castile went to get his wallet and said, I'm getting my wallet. And the other report is that he went to go for his wallet to pull it out and said, I'm getting my wallet. And the cop said, don't move. And then Mr. Castile went to put his hands back up. And that's when the officer fired his gun into Mr. Castile 4 or 5 times. The reason I know all of this is because at 1 a.m. I was on break at work and I was watching the video on the local news outlets after I got done watching it on Facebook. This was on Facebook Live, which is a relatively new app. If you don't know what it is, Facebook Live allows you to live stream video, much the same way Periscope does, to my understanding. I could be wrong. I'm not a fucking smartphone app tech guru guy. You know me, Captain Flip Phone. That's how I roll. Who was filming it? His girlfriend. And the video is everything after the shots were fired, and it's her saying what happened. And then you see the cop is standing there with his gun still pointed at Mr. Castile. Well, Mr. Castile is slumped over. Blood is soaking his white T-shirt. And then the video is her explaining what's going on. The cop tells her to keep her hands where he can see him. And she, cool as a cucumber, despite the fact that her boyfriend has been shot and is probably dying, she goes, "I'm keeping my hands exactly where you can see them, officer." And she talks to the cop. And when I say talks back, I don't mean she was a sassy bitch. She communicates back and forth with the officer a few times. And she even says to him, "No, he told you he had the gun and he was reaching for his wallet, and that's when you shot him." Something to that effect. How she was able to maintain composure, I don't know. But then again, I've also been in some fucked up situations where everybody else is panicking, and I'm just standing there looking around like, okay, well, let's get the job done. One being a car accident where I was in a rollover, and I was a passenger, and the car rolled 4 1/4 times. And once I got out of the car, I had some blood on my face from some cuts on my head. And everybody around me is just like staring at me, mouth agape, wondering what the fuck is going on. And I'm like, am I bleeding or something? Because you're all staring at me like I look ghastly. And the guy's like, "Oh, you got blood all over your face." I'm like, okay, well, I'm fine. So can we get a jacket for her? And can you, over there, you got a cell phone, call 911, please? I was in the accident. I got out of the back window that was smashed out, and I had to direct the passersby that stopped for us on what to do, because I was very cool-headed. The issue that this whole thing brings to the forefront, yet again, haven't really talked about it since episode 3, Hands Up, Don't Shoot, with me and Danny, and another instance of someone getting shot by the police. And it's not like nobody's been shot by the cops. No black men or women have died at the hands of the white police since then. I hate the fact that this is going to become a racial issue, but here's what really happened. A human being was stopped by the police. That officer was a human being. He shot his gun and killed the human being he was stopping. Philando Castile was a human being, and now he's dead. And thanks to Facebook Live, which I mentioned 2 minutes ago, we have all seen what happened. And this is the world we live in now. If you think that this is going to be a rare instance of the information getting out instantly in our me, now, give it to me as soon as I can think of it, instant gratification type of world, you're wrong. Because just a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, a guy in Chicago was on Facebook Live talking about something. And he got shot in a drive-by. So basically he broadcast his own murder to the internet. If I am grasping how this concept works, you live stream what's going on, and it's right there. And say you stop recording, and there's the recording's right there on Facebook. You've logged in. You've activated the app. You have partaken in the recording of the video. So this is going to be more common. And I'm glad it's here, because this now instantly combats the issue of police body cameras. Because people in the public wonder, well, the cops have the body cameras. They can control when they're on and off, because they don't run all the fucking time. So now, as the world's gotten more and more intense in terms of police contact for everyday little piddly shit, everybody's got their cell phone out the second a cop gets out of his car. Cops are furious because they feel like they're under unnecessary scrutiny. But you know what? If I was still a cop, yeah, there'd be people with phones filming me. As long as I'm not losing my cool and doing anything wrong, I don't care if you're filming me. Because what if your cell phone video goes viral, and that's the thing that gets me out of a jam should the situation end up in court? You know, the subject of an excessive force or ethical quandary. I don't want to be staring down the barrel of internal affairs up my ass saying that I did something that was unconstitutional without the backup of some video that is going to prove that I did what I said I did, and I said what I claimed I did. It's going to bail you out. And this cop, back to the video now, this cop is fucked. Both in the head and both in terms of going forward. Maybe they're not going to file criminal charges against him, because he's going to play the same old officer safety bullshit. Well, I heard gun, and he was reaching into his pocket. And first off, you can draw your gun right there, but keep it at a low ready. Picture a police officer, gun in hands. He's not pointing it at you. He's pointing it across his body at like a 60-degree angle towards the ground. That's called low ready, if you are unaware. When you bring it up and point it at someone, that's combat ready. So if a guy's reaching into his pocket, you yell. You yell, stop! Do not move! Do not move, all right? You said gun, I'm nervous, let's take a second, let's take a breath. There's no reason that you can't be a human being in that instance. You don't need to be like, stop! I need you to stop resisting. I need you to put your hands up. Keep your hands where I can see them. Keep your hands where I can see them. Keep your hands up. Get your hands up. Get your hands up. Get your hands up! That's how it goes. You escalate your tone. Officer presence, a good command voice. That's what's required of you. You're supposed to give very clear, direct, almost machine-like orders to people. I really don't feel that that works for me. And it doesn't work for me in the jail when I got to talk to somebody. I'm not going to be like, stop making unprofessional comments. Stop sexual harassment. Stop the sexual harassment. Stop it. Stop the sexual harassment. I am not going to put up with your sexual harassment. But just so you're aware, that's how we're trained as police officers, to shout commands and overload the perpetrator's brain so that they can't think for themselves what they want to do. It's supposed to interrupt their cognitive processes so they don't think, oh, I'm going to resist or I'm going to shoot him. All they can think about is the constant chain of commands that are just bombarding them till they comply. So if you ever wonder why cops talk like that, we're trained that way. I mean, the next time that a cop gives you orders, you follow him because he's going to keep shouting the same shit at you. And the more he has to say it, the more escalated in tone he's going to get. If a cop repeats to you, get your hands up more than twice, each time he repeats subsequently thereafter, you're increasing your chance of getting shot 25 to 50%. It's just, you got to be of sound mind if you're going to do this and get your emotions in check. And yeah, it's easy for me as an outsider to give my opinion after the fact, but if you get a job as a cop, obviously they've entrusted in you that authority, but more importantly, they have said, this is the type of individual who we trust with their decision making. Get the taser out. That's what I would have done. Point the fucking taser right at his chest and tell him, stop. Slowly move your hands up. And I want you to put them on the steering wheel. And once the hands are on the steering wheel, I'm going to say, I'm going to lower my taser. I don't want you to move, but I want you to tell me where your firearm is. Once again, Mr. Castile identified that he had a firearm and that he had a concealed carry permit. In my eyes, that is the right thing to do. However, it could have been his undoing because cops, they're nervous, they hear gun, they pull the gun, and look what fucking happened. A man got shot and died. Go to pa.courts.state.mn.us. And on the front page, click criminal records. From there, switch from case to defendant in the drop-down menu. And you can enter Castile, C-A-S-T-I-L-E, and then the first name, Philando, P-H-I-L-A-N-D-O, and do a search, and it'll bring you up the arrest record or the conviction record for Philando Castile. But from what I'm hearing, this guy had no criminal history. So once again, responsible gun owner, not your stereotypical black guy with a rap sheet a mile long that we always unfortunately portray in the media because that's what sells newspapers and magazines and gets viewers and gets clicks and generates tweets. Some people are picking apart the fact that in the video she mentions they had some weed in the car. And some people are like, well, what? You going with your girlfriend and a kid to go pick up weed? You know, if weed was legal in this nation, we wouldn't be having that conversation. I want you to change weed to cigarettes. Because maybe that's what he was doing. They were running errands. I didn't get the call. I don't have the transcript of what dispatch was told from the cop. But I highly doubt that he suspected this guy was leaving a drug den. And if that's the case, it's fucking weed. I would hope a man didn't die over a baggie of weed. Maybe they just had weed. People smoke weed. And the problem here in America is that we've criminalized a plant that does not deserve to be a scheduled narcotic with a high tendency for abuse. The fact that marijuana is a Schedule I drug is bullshit. Totally different topic for a different show. What this officer did was excessive force. And if you don't know the differences between how traffic stops go in the North and the South, in the South, cops pull you over, you are expected to get out of your car and slowly walk to the officer's vehicle. Switch of places. The cop is at a disadvantage. They're sitting there, and you're outside their car. But that's the South, and this is the North, and this is how it went down. I saw the video from all the cops standing around when they were, trying to secure the crime scene hours later in the dark. And shit, I mean, they stuck this guy's girlfriend right in the back of a cop car. And from what I just heard on the radio a few minutes ago, she spent the night in jail, probably held as a witness. I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say maybe they wanted to keep her from making any more Facebook live streams or being interviewed by the media. They were trying to quell the storm before it got going. Well, kudos, you stupid motherfuckers. What, is she going to flee to Mexico? Is she afraid that you guys are a department of banditos who are out to get her? No, probably not. Here's the main thing I want you to take away from that video. She's talking. Philando Castile shot and bleeding out. He's slumped over and dying. And the cop is still standing there with his gun pointed at him, obviously in shock, obviously pissing his pants, obviously realizing he has fucked up beyond all recognition. This has gone sideways in a hurry, and there's no talking his way out of this one. The cop continues to stand there, and, Castile made his way to the hospital, was pronounced dead. Maybe the cop gets on the horn right after he fires the gun and says, "This is Officer so-and-so. I need an ambulance on scene to my location. I have discharged my firearm. 1 male, life-threatening gunshot wounds. Please hurry." Ambulance comes. Ambulance takes Philando Castile to the hospital. Maybe he lives. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but the video goes on for minutes. Minutes. Precious seconds are ticking away on this man's life. And even during the video, he slumps over more and stops really moving. And his girlfriend says, "Oh, God, please tell me my boyfriend did not just die. Please tell me that my boyfriend did not just go out like this. Officer, I hope you did not just kill my boyfriend." You'd almost think it was fucking scripted. But holy shit. I mean, here's why I think this lady was so able to stay calm during all this. She already saw a cop shoot a gun. She didn't want to get shot herself. She wanted to make sure she got this on tape for the sake of her boyfriend, who she already must have had some inclination was going to die. And she didn't want him to go out without his story being told as accurately as possible from the first initial second she could get it out there. But here's the bigger reason. We've seen this too many times in America. Black men have been shot by the police ad nauseum. There's already, I heard, 115 instances of black men being shot or killed by law enforcement in America this year alone. And maybe that doesn't seem like a big number in comparison to the U.S. population of 340 million, but it's kind of an indictment of police culture in America. And because guns are so prevalent in America and cops all have guns, they're trained with their guns, their sidearm is their safety net, they go for it. I did draw my gun on a security call to an alarm at a residence, and the door to the garage was open. And we went in there. The other cop with me said, "Make sure you get that gun out, rookie." At that point, I was already reaching for my gun, so thank you for the obvious advice. But yeah, so I pulled out my gun. I turned on the flashlight on the barrel. We checked out the garage and looked under the car. And with my gun in my hand, I said, "Oh, please, God, don't let there be somebody under there. I don't want to have to shoot my gun off." But instantly I said, "I don't want to shoot my gun off." Isn't that funny? I didn't say, "Please don't let there be somebody under there. I don't want this to turn into an escalated situation." It was, "I don't want to fire my gun." The reason I'm not a police officer anymore is A, windshield time. It's fucking boring and I don't agree with it. And B, I don't like guns. I don't like having that right there on my hip, knowing that I could make a wrong decision, an error in judgment. I could go overboard in assessing a situation and take a human life. Because as I've said before, that's what guns' designated purpose is, right? People say they're for self-defense. Yeah, but it's a projectile weapon designed to destroy. Can't build with it, can't create with it. It takes away life, it stops threats, but it's all negative connotations with some positive benefits, but it's for killing. I don't like that. Going into a gas station to grab something on break, a little snack, and I got to keep my elbow on my gun and keep it pressed to my body. Even though I have a level 3 holster which there are 3 levels of holsters in law enforcement. Most departments require at least a 2, if not a 3. I'm pretty sure they all require a 3. That means when your gun is in your holster, there is a clip that keeps it in place. You cannot pull it out very easily. You have to push a button with your thumb and rock that button forward to release. It's a 2-part release process for that gun to come out. Level 1 would be if there's just a snap, and that's what they had in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s. 80s and 90s, many officers and departments went to level 2, which is a push-down button release to pull out the gun. But now it's a push of a button, rock it forward, there you go, time for action. A few weeks ago, on Blumpkin and Friends, I had a friend of mine on who has aspirations to be a cop. He's like, well, if you're sick of working in the jail, go be a cop again. No, thank you. Nope. Sorry. Shit like this proves to me why I don't want to be a cop. It is, hands down, the worst time in history to be a police officer in America. Racial tension, gun culture, and so many people are armed. Plus you have the social media aspect where everybody's got a phone with a camera in their pocket and they're taking video. Cops have to wear body cameras and feel like they're under constant scrutiny, even if you're doing the right thing. Which, by the way, if you've ever worked on camera, you feel like you're being treated just as bad as the inmates or the assailants or the shoplifters. It's just natural that when somebody's taping you, it feels like an adversarial relationship where it's not just to record what's going on, but to record you to make sure you're not fucking up. So that's why you get a lot of people get burned out in my line of work and in policing, because you're always under scrutiny. You're always under the microscope. You feel like every little thing that you do is going to be dissected and re-dissected by people's opinions, and then it's going to be pitchfork and torch time, storming the castle because you said the wrong thing, you did the wrong thing. In this case, you killed a man. Governor of my state, Governor Dayton, gave a press conference. It was the first thing I saw today when I woke up. And I watched it, and he was very eloquent. He chose his words very carefully, and I liked how he brought to the forefront the point that no first aid was rendered to this gentleman during the course of the stop. His life possibly could have been saved. He shouldn't have been shot. Philando Castile did everything right, except apparently have an unbroken taillight. The man told the cop responsibly that he had a firearm, that he had a license for it. I've told you that there's other ways of talking somebody down in a situation that could instantly have you freak out because someone says gun. And Governor Dayton acknowledged that this was, quote, beyond the pale, that no aid was rendered, that it was disturbing. And it is, watching that man, he wasn't even flailing, he was just slowly tipping over as the life literally ran out of him. Governor Dayton also mentioned that there would be an independent investigation into this, in addition to any sort of federal probe that's obviously going to happen. President Obama already spoke up and said this was disturbing. I mean, you're not getting a lot of support for the cop in this one. It clearly, from the video, and I get that this is the girlfriend's phone video, you didn't see the actual shooting portion, but this cop is fucked. And you could tell by his lack of taking action, his standing there with his gun out, waiting for backup to arrive. I'm sure he said, shots have been fired by me, I need additional squads or additional units. I'm spitballing, I can only sit here and throw out the hypothetical because I wasn't in attendance. Plus, they say there was a kid in the car. I don't know the age of the kid, but Jesus Christ, I don't care if that kid's 1, 4, 8, 12, or 17, still a kid. And look what you just witnessed. And you better believe that Black Lives Matter is going to be all over this. They were already protesting another Minnesota man who was shot down in Baton Rouge a day or two ago. And he was shot while he was on the ground. Somebody said that there was a man with a gun harassing people outside of a convenience store. And the cops came and somehow he ended up down on the ground. He got shot while he was down on the ground. That guy had a gun. I don't know if he brandished it at cops. But the protests that have been going on here have been peaceful. I have spoken up against Black Lives Matter, and I will say this. Black Lives Matter has a right to be angry about Philando Castile. They have a right to protest. And as long as they go to the PD in St. Anthony and picket there, and they keep it peaceful, They don't disrupt police operations. They don't harass the public. They don't block roads. They don't block airports. They don't block shopping malls. Take it to where it belongs. Take it to the PD. This is black culture versus police culture in America. Go to the department. I won't judge you as long as there's not damage to police vehicles or arson or other vandalism or looting, because as we saw in Ferguson, things got pear-shaped real quick, and then there was a full-scale riot across the city. We have not done that in Minnesota for quite some time. I'd like to think that cooler heads prevail, but then again, this is not a predominantly black area. It is a racially diverse area, but it's not like all black, like Ferguson is very, very black. I'm not black, so I can't speak as to what it feels like to experience discrimination for the color of my skin or perceived prejudice due to the color of my skin, so I'm not going to say shit. All I'm going to tell you to do is go out there, speak up for Philando Castile, get the word out, get the message out, keep it peaceful, and all is well. I mean, a human being got shot. Yeah, he was a black man, but that's statistical information. He was a human being. He was a human being who got pulled over for a broken taillight. He told the cop he had a gun. I'm sure he was very slowly going for it because he knows what it's like to be pulled over by the cops as a black man in America. And then he got shot. This man is going to be remembered not for whatever he did in the 32 years and change prior to this day. He will only be remembered as a victim now. And that's sad, because what if he was an incredible human being? What if he bucked the trends of black stereotypes? What if he took care of his kids, and he had a job, and he paid his bills, and he was hardworking, and he wasn't subsisting off of government entitlement programs? I mean, I'm not trying to turn it into a racial issue, but that's what's ultimately going to be done. Because he's black, people are going to jump to conclusions. I won't, because, I mean, I've been pulled over before too, but I've never had a gun drawn on me. And I've said, okay, well, my wallet is in my pocket. I'm going to put my left hand up on the door here, on the windowsill, and I'm going to reach for it with my right hand. Or I'm going to say, I'm going to put my left hand on the wheel here at the bottom and grip it so you can see it's fixed, and I'm going for my wallet in my pocket now. Maybe that sounds excessive to you if you've never been pulled over. You need to give clear descriptions of your movements so that they seem deliberate, not like, whoa, I'm going to grab shit quick, because that's what makes cops nervous. And I ride pretty low in my chair. I one hand grip the wheel at 12. I'm not driving at 10 and 2. So, I mean, when you pull up, I'm half in the back seat reclined because I'm 5'11" and I've always driven cars and my posture sucks. But you can see what I'm doing. When you walk up on a scene when you're pulling somebody over, you got the light in the car, or if it's daylight, you can see in the car. You watch their movements very carefully. Tell a cop what you're doing. Tell a cop if you've got a gun. But here's a piece of advice there. Hand him your wallet, or hand the officer your driver's license and your insurance card. And as he's looking at it, put your hands up on the wheel and go, my hands are at 10 and 2. I'm notifying you now that I have a conceal and carry permit and there is a firearm on me. Technically, to my understanding of the law, you are not supposed to have that firearm on you accessible in the cabin of the vehicle. That's one way that Philando Castile fucked up. It's supposed to be in your trunk, secured. Not in the glove box, not in the back seat. Anywhere that you can reach is not a good spot to have it. And that was the law when it was taught to me when I graduated cop school in 2005. I can't imagine it has changed very much since then. This cop's probably going to get indicted, and he should. Just like the cop that murdered Lamar, or whatever the fuck his name was, in Chicago. I forget the guy's name, but the video I spoke of many episodes ago, maybe it was episode 3, where the cop just straight up shot a guy that was walking down the street, walking away from them. And the guy was in no way looking like he was going to pull a gun. It's just, this is the world we live in now. And it needs to stop. Police need to rethink how they use their firearm. We need to re-examine how we train them to use their firearm. And this cop-out where officers can say, I was in fear for my safety. That's bullshit. Unless there's a gun pointed at you, you flat out say, I got scared. And they tell you not to do that probably because it's an indictment of your actions. But rational fear should be present if you're a police officer. It's a scary line of work. Another reason why I don't do it. I don't need the fucking stress. But Getting away with shooting people because you say, well, I was in fear for my safety. Maybe you should say, I heard the word gun, I saw a gun, I came upon the scene, and there was a potential for violence. That's a lot better than the cheap cop-out phrase, I was in fear for my safety. Because a lot of these cases involve excessive force of people allegedly in handcuffs or on the ground. And Jamar Clark, they proved that motherfucker was not in handcuffs or on the ground. They proved that he was on top of a cop when he got shot. There was a struggle for a weapon. Not the case with Philando Castile. So I'm sorry that my home state has had to go viral in the news. I'm sorry that this man's life was lost. More details will come out, but I'd like to thank Facebook for Facebook Live, because at least now we can eliminate much of the guesswork, and it's only going to keep going. So in the future, hopefully Facebook Live can give instant access to the situation to more people, so we don't have to rely on the fucking media to doctor the details, or, you know, you don't trust what the news is reporting when you've got a more direct route of finding out what happened. It's a sad day because this man has died. I can only hope that the officer is held accountable and receives a lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter, because you took a life. But that's up to the feds to probe this. It's going to be going on for months. You won't see an ending to this situation probably before Christmas. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann, and that's the end.